Okay, guys, we now have the third instalment to our Bucketsblog Power Ranking, and we'll continue with the 20th spot where we have the Utah Jazz. And the first thing I think of when I think about the Utah Jazz just now is the ACL tear that Dante Exum has sustained playing for Team Australia. So he's a guy that I thought probably would have been keeping at that starting role for the Jazz just now, because of this injury. Who knows when he may actually be back? Probably like after the All-Star game at the earliest, probably out for the whole season. So that definitely hurts them, because I don't think they have a good enough backcourt to be competing in the Western Conference. What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely hurts them in the short term. Hopefully, he can come back and be, start again where he was. He's a young guy, very talented. Yet to see that talent become anything on the court, but hopefully he can get to that stage. It'll just open up the conversation again about international play for NBA players, which, to be honest, a conversation I don't really want to have.
No,
but it's
like, people are very down on it since the Paul George thing, and Kevin Durant wasn't completely healthy when it's something that Kevin Durant's kind of poo-pooed a little bit since last season as well. So there's a whole movement against international basketball at the moment that this doesn't really help. But again, I think it's a shame, because he's a player that I thought was about to launch into
he had a really good season last year, and it looked like this season he would really take off. But
and it's an eye test thing as well. We just mentioned it's an eye test thing. It's really difficult to back up the point that he deserves to start on his statistics alone. It's more of an eye test thing and a feeling thing. But it's a role I definitely thought he was going to be taking on. So in lieu of a point guard like Dante Exum, I think their backcourt is still going to be pretty poor. I think I counted it up to be something like 7 assists a game from their whole backcourt. That's Trey Burke and Alec Burks together combining for something like 7 assists a game, which isn't good enough for a backcourt.
No.
Not an NBA backcourt. And it comes down to it leads you to then ask, who's the leader on this team if they don't have a significant point guard? And I keep harping on over and over again. The trademark of an elite team is an elite point guard, and they don't have a good point guard.
I think when it comes to leadership, they're going to have to look towards Gordon Hayward now to be the de facto leader.
Yeah.
Now, I like Gordon Hayward. I think he's a good player. He had a fantastic game against Cleveland last year, where he took it to LeBron James, actually hit the game over LeBron James, but he's still not a franchise guy. He would be a good contributor on a good team.
That's the thing, though. He is a franchise guy for the Jazz, because they don't have another franchise guy.
It's not so much that he is a franchise, he's been put into that role, and he's the only guy that can fill that role right now.
He's the highest paid guy. Because of that, he's the franchise guy. He's the face of the franchise, and he's the guy you look at. He has to produce every night.
Yeah, it worries me that, but hopefully we get a bit more production. Maybe just a little bit more production from him, but I'm looking more towards now Favors. Basically, the last 4 years since.
I think he's an underachiever as well.
We'll be looking to him. He's 69 pretty much every year. Just kept on that. He needs to get to 20 and 10 or 18. He needs to do something that justifies his contract. He needs to make some sort of leap. Rudy Gobert, Stifle Tower, Friends Connection, whatever.
Yeah, I like Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is the most exciting thing outside of Dante Exum this team has. I genuinely believe that. I really like him.
I would argue that and say he's more exciting than Dante Exum.
He's already the best rim protector in the NBA, I think.
I think this is going to create a really good situation where they're actually going to have to really fight to keep him as a Utah Jazz member, which kind of leads us right quite next to, will he stay or will he go there? We just don't know.
You've been holding on to that one all night. Will he stay or will he go there?
Do you know what? I'm not even going to let you expand on that one. Let's move on.
Rudy Gobert he's an exciting player, but you're right, he is too talented to probably keep playing in this Jazz. We just saw the likes of Enes Kanter go from a mediocre situation where he's not performing the best to going to somewhere like OKC where he's suddenly significant, and his ability, his level of play just jumps through the roof. Again, Gobert's now getting that opportunity now, but you wonder if down the line his performance starts to stagnate if they can't do something else and start advancing their game, and someone else on the roster makes a leap and becomes significant. Yeah. It's hard to see where it comes from though.
And it is worth mentioning, after they did move Kanter and put Gobert into the starting lineup, they were actually pretty damn good. After the All-Star break, they were 19 and 10, which doesn't sound too impressive, but when you started off the year 19 and 38,
it's almost 66%.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. So that shows you what rim protection over a little bit of offensive production can actually do in the league.
But it's hard to see where they can really factor in the West. They're probably a better team than you think they are because they play in a really competitive Western Conference, and they kind of just get lost in the shuffle because of how competitive it is over there. But we'll move on now to number 19, where we have the Sacramento Kings. A really, really interesting situation. You could talk about this one like all day, just because of all the different angles you can come at it with. But the main one being, how do they develop a sense of chemistry when they have DeMarcus Cousins and George Karl, who openly dislike each other because of George Karl basically putting them on the trade block without actually spending that much time talking to him about it. You had DeMarcus Cousins with the emoji gate, with the snake in the grass comments on Twitter, and with that dysfunction already in place, you're throwing Rajon Rondo into the mix now, where he's just came off maybe the lowest point in his career, where he was butting heads with Rick Carlisle in the playoffs, to the point where he basically cost that whole Dallas roster their place in the playoffs, because basically just down to him, like not being able to be a team player, not being able to contribute. Now you're throwing him into an explosive chemistry situation like that, and I don't know where it goes.
I think it creates really good viewing, but not as an NBA team.
No, I was going to say
it's almost Rumble-esque,
yeah,
you know.
The start of this season isn't so much going to be an NBA season as a soap opera. At least for the first few weeks. This is just
the inside the NBA episodes on the Sacramento.
Oh, this would be phenomenal. Grantland get on a 30 for 30. That would be phenomenal. Just
I would love to see the little guy from the Domino ads play as Marco Bellinelli. Just you know, hey guys, you sit around the table.
So basically, just what every commentator does for Marco Bellinelli's games anyway. Okay.
Yeah. Outside that, I think Rudy Gay, I feel really sorry for him, because he's the guy who's going to suffer the most from this situation that they're all in now. He's a quiet guy. He's a leader, but he's a quiet leader. He leads more with his performances than his locker room chat. That's going to be completely, he's going to be drowned out in the. It's just going to be noise around him now. Having said that, Rondo is DeMarcus Cousins' favourite point guard, as they had him on Grantland doing a whole podcast with just Boogie Cousins, and he was talking about how Rondo is his favourite point guard. Now they've got a chance to play together. There is the situation that's materialising now in Sacramento. It's either going to be really good or really bad, and nowhere in between. It's either going to work really, really well for them. Rondo basically needs to have a career year so that he can regain a lot of the lost respect that he's basically pissed up the wall playing for Dallas.
They do have on the plus side of the Kings. They do have one of the best rosters that they've had in a very long time. They're very deep. They've got a lot of different kind of versatility. They can put in guys in different positions.
Yep. First, some veteran leadership that they haven't had in a long time as well, with the likes of Marco Bellinelli coming off the championship season 2 years, 2014 against the Heat. Karen Butler is a former champion as well with the Dallas Mavericks in 2011, and Rondo is a champion in 2008 as well, although the downside to him at the moment seems to far outweigh the upside. So they've got some veteran leadership on the team that in a very, very long time. They've got a roster that can score, can shoot the three ball. Certainly the bench can shoot the three ball. They can play a little bit of a stretch game. Willie Cauley-Stein is the rookie that they've just drafted. Very defensive minded, not a great offensive player, but can he play alongside DeMarcus Cousins and create strike a balance there, with DeMarcus Cousins playing more like a power forward, although he probably will officially stay the centre or the centrepiece of the team at least.
I think it's trying to fit all these pieces together to make a coherent unit is going to be the issue for this team. You've got a lot of pieces, but how do they actually fit together? Yeah. Do you play Rudy Gay as a stretch 4, Carl and Butler with DeMarcus Cousins at the centre?
That's something you mentioned. I think he probably will play some stretches, like with Rudy Gay at the power forward spot. For no, just because you can do it now, because Paul Pierce has done it in the past, where he's your traditional small forward who's played some minutes at the power forward spot because of the way that the game's evolving towards a stretch 4.
I think the real question will come down to Dave likes to harp on about his point guards. We've got Darren Collison as the reserve.
He's a good backup.
He's a good backup.
It's very good backup.
But the question is, if Rondo comes out the gates arguing with coaches, not playing up to his potential or past potential, you're paying him what, $8 million a year, $10 million a year?
Yep, something.
Why is Darren Collison on the roster, who also got paid?
Yeah.
Is that maybe could cause a awkward dynamic? Because personally, right now, I'd start Collison over Rondo.
The simplest thing is to say that the chemistry won't work out. DeMarcus Cousins and George Karl do not get on. Maybe they're talking about patching it up and how George Carl's come in and said, "Oh, we're actually okay now." Don't believe it for a second. Rondo, because Cousins has came out in favour of Rondo so often, I think they're going to strike up quite a good relationship straight away. So that pits Rondo automatically against George Carl, as if that wouldn't have happened anyway, because Rondo doesn't like any coach that he seems to play for. So it's a really explosive situation. It'll make good viewing. I think the Sacramento Kings are a team that you'll stay tuned into, if for no other reason than because people like to watch a car crash.
Agreed.
That's the truth.
Yep. Agreed.
So we'll move on now to number 18, where we have the Boston Celtics. And they, the primary piece, like as much as they have a lot of talent on the roster, a lot of young talent on the roster, I think the main story for the Boston Celtics is Brad Stevens and how much of a surprise as a coach he's been since coming up from college, getting a 7-year contract, getting a very, very long-term contract, because that's what it took to pry him away from the college game, and he's been absolutely worth all the commitment that Boston have had to make to him.
Well, when you look at the roster that he got, I wouldn't say landed with, that's probably a bit rude, but the roster that he had last year, and he dragged them kicking and streaming into the playoffs. Everyone was saying it's a lottery team.
Yep.
Their best player is Isaiah Thomas coming off the bench. They've got a collection of role players.
Vastly overperformed, absolutely.
Yeah, these guys we're talking about, they'll be very valuable, but as 6th, 7th, 8th guys on a team, and he's got them starting. He's got a rotation with Sullinger, Olynyk and Zeller all playing 20 minutes a game, putting up identical numbers basically, just producing. And now you've added David Lee to that mix, former All-Star, didn't get a lot of playing time last year because of Draymond Green's emergence at Golden State, but he could be effective. He could still score in bunches. Maybe
I think he
go back to be a 20 guy.
It gives Boston that bit of kind of experience and bit kind of veteran leadership that they really lacked last year. I think it'll more so be important for Brad Stevens that David Lee helps him out than the team. If he doesn't play a lot of minutes, I don't think that will matter. As long as he's there guiding Brad Stevens' decisions, that's important.
I think he does. I think he does play, maybe not a lot of minutes, but I think he plays a lot more than he played with the Golden State Warriors. And that his story from last season is what makes him such an asset now, because he's a veteran leader. He now has championship experience to bring to the team, because he's been involved with Steve Kerr in a championship team. But he's willing to make sacrifices for the good of the team, as he's proved. This is now the reason that the Warriors traded him to Celtics is because they felt like they owed it to him to put him in a situation where he can play as much basketball as possible.
The question is now, is he the star that takes Boston to the next level?
Don't know if he's a star, but I think he'll definitely start and he'll play, and I think he'll be a valuable asset to their team. Again, you're talking about the rotation that they have. They have a very flat rotation because everyone seems to get a decent number of minutes. There's nobody who's if we can contrast that with Tom Thibodeau coach team, where routinely a guy and that roster is going to be the leader in minutes played per game for a season. They don't have that. They've got a very flat roster where everyone seems to get an equal opportunity, and it's resulted in them all getting near enough equal playoff experience, which will be valuable for them down the line. I just in the grand scheme of the Boston Celtics rebuilding effort, I don't know if they're going to, a lot of these guys are going to be using that playoff experience on this team in the long term.
Yeah.
Because they've got picks coming out their arse. They're probably not going to be a playoff team this season. Because
I kind of disagree with that. I think they are going to be a playoff team this season. I don't think they'll be much higher than 8th, but I think they're going to get there.
I think we've got them predicted to come in 18th overall, which does slip them in the 8th spot in the East. Again, Eastern Conference has to be mentioned, a lot weaker. There are teams making a push like the Brooklyn Nets, Charlotte Hornets, we've got the Orlando Magic, but I do think the Celtics adding Lee, they made them play. They've got experience from last year. But I don't know if that's where they want to be, because I think sometimes you want to get the lottery picks, but I think they've got the talent. They've got Brad Stevens does not want to be, he wants to get to the playoffs and show what he can do this, and I think they're going to make it back again.
That'll absolutely be Brad Stevens' goal coming out of the gate to start this season. But they were in the playoffs by virtue of the fact that the Pacers and the Heat weren't healthy. Now the Pacers and the Heat are healthy, and I think they're going to suffer from that now. They overperformed, and part of the reason for that is that they got lucky with the situations on other teams. The Heat will not be as bad as they were last season, absolutely not by a long shot. And the Pacers, I think, have got what they don't have in a two-way superstar that can drag a team into the playoffs. It's certainly in the Eastern Conference.
The issue is I don't see any teams that are below them actually threatening. Although they can push for the 8th spot, I do think the Boston Celtics have the advantage right now on paper to get back in.
Well, we've spoke about how the team that's got it already, should get it until a game's played. So they're definitely the incumbent at the moment. But when we get to the end of the season, I don't see them being in the playoffs. That's my take on it. You guys disagree?
Yeah, we disagree.
We
I think you've got them 7th, I've got them 8th, but we have them making it in.
I don't have them making it in. So we'll move on to now number 17, where we have the Phoenix Suns. Again, like this is another kind of team where you've got chemistry issues that are being routinely reported every day, particularly at the moment with Markieff Morris upset that his twin brother was traded to the Pistons, and now seems to be kicking up and demanding a trade about it. It's a problem that's been recurring now for the best part of, I'll say 6 months at least, probably stretching out to 12 months, where Goran Dragic was basically demanding a trade because, quote, he didn't trust the front office. So it's a recurring theme now with the Phoenix Suns, where the front office seem to be at least at odds with their players.
Well, I think even further back, there was always issues with the front office, back to Steve Nash era, where he wouldn't get the help around him. They would sign players like Shaq or...
I would say that is more down to incompetence than mistrust at the moment. It seems to be more, I don't want to say corrupt, I think corrupt's the wrong word, but they're definitely not
in the players' corner.
They're not communicating well with their own staff, and that's the main thing. That's what they need to be doing. They need to be having a set out plan what they're doing, and it seems like they keep jumping from kind of ship to ship. We're having, at the start of last season, they had a load of point guards and shooting guards. Now they've kind of went away from that a little bit, and they didn't really get anything for those valuable assets that they had.
They did go and get Tyson Chandler, who valuable contributor. Don't know how much on this team, but good rim protector. Does move Alex Len down the pecking order a little bit. I know he's not produced as a 5th overall pick, but when you've got a young talent and then you're putting him down low in these minutes, he's not going to develop at all if he's not getting the minutes. And I do think the amount they made 3 free team trades, one after the other last year, to get rid of pretty much the whole roster.
It just shows a lot of dysfunction, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe more than, I'll say more than any other team, because I was an avid follower of the Phoenix Suns during the Steve Nash era. Maybe more than any other team that I can remember or that I was tuned into. This is a team that can be accused the most of running their team more like a business than as a sport franchise. And Robert Sarver is the main guy, in that effort, because he runs his team like he makes his money from banking. He runs this team like he runs a bank, and it's all about business decisions. And business decisions aren't always the best decisions for a sport franchise, or are the decisions that benefit the players the best. And it seems to now be getting to a point where it's coming into conflict with players and causing a lot of franchise dysfunction. I don't know where the out is for that though. I don't know how it changes, because Robert Sarver's always ran a team like that. It seems like people are now getting fed up with it. So I don't know how it changes. But if you look at the roster, Tyson Chandler I think will do a job as a rim protector if nothing else. They're bookending the roster really, really well with the likes of Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe's a really good point guard.
He'll still be really, really enjoyable to watch, but will that translate into wins for the Phoenix Suns? I don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get wins. They're going to be a victim of the Western Conference in a bit, and just because you finish like 10th or 11th in the Western Conference doesn't mean you're a bad team necessarily, because it's such a competitive conference. Phoenix are for the past couple of years been pushing on the, knocking on the playoff door, if you like, if never really.
Well, last season, I believe they did actually just chuck it away. They could have got there, but they decided to trade so many of their pieces away. They said, no, we don't want it. We would much rather take a higher pick than actually going to the playoffs. It didn't work out for them.
Yeah. Obviously, something had to do with Dragic not being happy, wanting to leave. But like you said, there was 2 other trades they made at the same time, 2 free team trades where they just dismantled the roster, and that was sort of admission. They were right up there with OKC and Pelicans in that race, and then disappeared. But I think this year, you're probably right, probably about 9th, 10th in the West, maybe 11th at a push. Someone might displace them.
I like Eric Bledsoe. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in Bledsoe's game, because he's still only 24 years old. He's still a little bit younger than you think.
I do quite like Bledsoe and Knight. They're very good combo guards.
And in the last bit of the season, they played well together as well, because both of them can play minutes at the 2. They don't need to be point guards.
The problem is, where's the depth behind them? Who's the next man up?
You've got on the depth chart here, we've got Archie Goodwin and Devin Booker. Devin Booker's a rookie, and I don't know, he's a shooter, but I don't know how much he's actually going to play this season. they don't have the greatest depth at any position, to be honest. And if we're being brutally honest, not a good enough starting five to really compete in the Western Conference. So I think 10 or 11 finish for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably most likely.
Yeah. So we'll move on now to number 16, where we have the Indiana Pacers. We've just kind of touched a little bit on the Pacers here just now. Primary thing is they've got Paul George coming back. He'll be healthy now. It was a leg break that he suffered last summer playing for Team USA. Clean break, with which had no reported muscle damage to it, and he played a little bit, towards the end of last season.
Yep.
Didn't he?
Yep.
Came back looking actually, pretty good at making stays and not seeming to have suffered a great deal of damage due to his injury. So that's a positive thing straight away. You've got a superstar guy coming back into the roster who can play both ends of the floor, which is vital. The roster has changed a lot around them.
Yeah, I think it's good to have Paul George back. It looked last year, just using the eye test, obviously stats don't really back us up because he was just returning, didn't get many minutes. But just watching him play, he seemed confident, didn't seem to be disheartened by his injury. Improved his shot. He also took the time out over the summer to work on his shot. Unfortunately, while he was away, he lost his two best big men inside, David West and Roy Hibbert. Roy Hibbert, maybe not so much of a big loss after his play last season. I do actually think Miles Turner and Ian Mahinmi, who now move into the 1 and 2 slots at centre, are actually a good combination at centre. I don't think they'll miss Roy Hibbert too much. David West, they will miss his toughness. He was a good 16-18 foot shooter as well. But I can imagine return of Paul George. They get Monte Ellis as well.
They had Monte Ellis, that's shooting. That's scoring right away.
So that's
the perfect addition if they still had their old roster back, actually. But again, he's a really good addition anyway.
Yeah, you've got. The big kind of black hole in this roster is basically your power forward spot here. You've got Jordan Hill, Raheem Christmas, and maybe Chase Budinger.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think
playing as power forward.
I think that's why we'll see some Paul George at power forward minutes.
Yeah.
Which, perfectly acceptable. Then slide Monte Ellis up, maybe put Rodney Stuckey, Steve Mills, who's played well. But yeah, they obviously don't have quite the depth they had last year, and we also have Frank Vogel, who came under a little bit of fire last couple of years, but has the full backing of Larry Bird. Let's just see with this slightly revamped roster.
Well, he's now has to prove that he can do it with a different team. I know everyone's getting on the back of Roy Hibbert recently, and he's absolutely collapsed in terms of his offensive game. You thought he had maybe 1 or 2 post moves before he had this collapse in confidence in the playoffs 2 years ago, and he seems to have just absolutely disappeared. But I wouldn't, because of that, underestimate what he brings to the table in terms of rim protection. Now we're going to see it. I think you're going to think a little bit. This team actually doesn't have the rim protection that it has anymore because it's traded Roy Hibbert away, and we'll start to see that for the Lakers now. I think. Again, it was just time for him to leave the Pacers. For both parties, the Pacers had to move on to a more small ball orientated offense, which is where Miles Turner, the rookie they drafted, helps them because he can move out from underneath the basket. He's very athletic and defend. He's going to be the rim protector, but he has a completely different dimension to the game that Roy Hibbert didn't have. But I think you're going to start. You now will appreciate actually what Roy Hibbert was bringing to the table while he wasn't scoring. Jordan Hill, I don't know what to say about Jordan Hill because he was a role. He played some starting time for the Lakers at centre, but he was nothing. He's a backup centre really. He's a good backup, energetic backup. Not going to be a guy who's going to come in and start and do really really well for you. So that's a question mark for me, which is why again we think this in a small ball lineup they'll probably move Paul George up a bit. Bring CJ Mills in off the bench as another shooting option. But yeah, that's the direction that this team has to now go in. Can it compete now in the Eastern Conference at the same level? I think having Paul George on the roster makes all the difference.
Well, now it depends. Can he come back at full strength? Can he push maybe back for an MVP candidacy, which he was a couple of years ago?
This was
not straight away. I don't think he's going to do it.
Just to give Gavin his due, that was Gavin's shout.
Yes.
That's why we're mentioning that because Gav has tagged him as a and his comeback year will be an MVP year. Maybe it'll be his best year yet. I don't know if he'll win the MVP award. I don't see that myself. But I think just the fact that they've got Paul George gives them an advantage. The teams who are in the Eastern Conference who are going to be competing for that 8th spot, and there's 2 or 3 of them. I think the Pacers
they don't have a guy of that standard.
They don't have a guy that's like Paul Paul George, who can play both ends of the floor and make a difference on both ends of the floor and
And-
be a legitimate superstar.
And you don't have a guy who can match up with LeBron James quite the way
Yeah,
Paul George can, which is something you've got to mention. If you're in a conference with LeBron James, first question, how do you match up?
that's why for me I think the Pacers are a playoff team. I don't know who. I think the Boston Celtics fall out, and I think maybe the Nets are probably falling out there as well. I think the Heat are definitely a lock to get in. That 8th seed now, and maybe the seeds occupied by the Bucks and the Raptors are up for debate. I don't know how realistic it is that they'll lose those seeds, but I think the Indiana Pacers are potentially the team that's got the best chance of regaining the playoff berth. Okay, so we'll wrap it up there. We'll come back in a couple of weeks now with the 15 to the number 1 spot in our Bucketsblog ranking. Thanks very much for listening to us, guys. Make sure you like, share, comment, get involved in the debate, and let us know what you think. Thanks very much.